You're listening to Spark TV, where we bring you daily interviews with real women in business at all stages. I'm your host, Danielle Lewis, and I am so grateful to have you here. We're here, Sarah. Oh my God. Welcome back to Spark TV.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
I don't have that many guests on, multiple times. So I'm so
Oh,
excited that you're up there because, we get to chat quite regularly through Spark, but it's
yeah.
nice to actually have a dedicated amount of time to really get into the nitty-gritty of what's been going on in business.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I feel very privileged to be a repeat guest on Spark TV.
Let's start out by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Sarah Petty. I'm the founder of Olive Business Partners, and we are a virtual CFO firm. So what we do is help business owners to grow their business, and help them with the right financial advice to do that. So I know that, there are so many businesses out there that start their business not thinking about that they need to do the finance side of it or don't want to do the finance side of it. It's not something that people necessarily enjoy. And you often haven't been taught, right? I've spent 20 years of my career in finance, so I know this back to front, but it's not something if you haven't been taught that you know how to manage often. But it is the number one reason that most businesses fail because they don't understand their financials and it's often down to lack of cash flow. So my mission is all about helping business owners to get access to that right advice and expertise to help them avoid those problems because often it can be avoided with foresight and with planning and a better understanding of their financial position. So we are not accountants or bookkeepers. They are very important roles in the business, but they're more helping you with the compliance and managing of your books. What we do is help you look forward. So we're helping you with your forecasting, your planning, your growth goals, and then working out the financial decisions that you need to make to get there. So yeah, that's what I do.
I love it. And I also love that it is in that kind of virtual slash fractional capacity because oftentimes I think as small business owners, we think, well, I can't afford to bring on a CFO into my business. Like, how many other roles do I need to fill before that role? But you actually make it accessible so we can get access to the strategy at probably really critical times in our business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm the same. I love the fractional model because it really allows business owners to tap into that expertise without having to hire a full-time resource. Because you think of a CFO or even other fractional roles, like whether it's in marketing or sales or technology, it's not just big businesses that need access to that. It's actually the sooner that you get access to that expertise in your business, the more
Mm.
sustainable the business is, the better results we see, the faster the growth. So being able to tap into that is really key. And we provide a model that we flex with the business, right? So you might start on more of a minimal support package, and then as your business grows, you can increase the level of support, and we get to grow with your business.
Yeah, it's and you made that comment earlier, as small business owners, we're not often taught, the ins and outs of finance of running a business. And I think sometimes we feel a bit of shame around that. Like for some reason we go, we're a business owner, we should magically now know everything about every vertical inside our business. But the reality is that we don't. So bringing in that expertise is just such a smart move.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you become a business owner, you have to wear all the hats suddenly, right? It's not,
Mm.
you've probably gone into business because you have a specific skill set or a great idea, but suddenly you're finance and your IT and your marketing and your sales, and you don't have training in all of those skill sets. I mean, finance is my background, but there are plenty of other parts of my business that I had to quickly upskill in.
Yeah, I love it. And now, when we were speaking last time, I think we spoke about the journey of going from corporate to now you as a business owner.
Yeah.
But I know that in the last 12 months, you've had incredible growth. What has the last 12 months look like for you?
Yeah, I think when we were talking last on the podcast, it was just me. It was literally just me doing everything, wearing all the hats, doing the sales, doing the client delivery, managing the back end. And we often have to start like that as a business owner, right? But
Mm.
yeah, I got really quick traction with client growth, and so had to make some decisions about bringing on some support to help me because I can't do it all myself. And I have tapped into that fractional model myself so that I didn't have to bring on full-time employees, but I could still get that expertise that I need. So, first hire I made was getting some support with social media. I have a great
Yes.
social media manager, and she just has helped me with the strategy. So I was posting stuff on social media, but just random, whatever thought came to my head, not thinking about that maybe I have to consider my target audience and my messaging and, a bit of a strategy behind it. So she's really helped me to get that in place, which has been great and just keep me accountable to maintain the consistency as well. Um, the second hire I made was in a business manager. And so what
Mm.
she does is help me a bit in the back end of the business. So she's helped to streamline some of the processes, the systems I use. She does things like client onboarding for me, helping to organize things with the team, which is just like a huge weight off my shoulders because there's so much of that in the background that you have to sort out as a business owner. And not only is she taking it off my plate, but she's doing a better job because she's trained
Yeah.
in that area. She's great at operations. She thinks about ways to improve processes. So yeah, she's doing 10 times better job of running it than me. And we've made some huge improvements. And then as the client base was growing, it got beyond what I could actually manage myself. And I
Mm.
also always had the idea in my mind to grow the firm to be able to offer the right skill set for the right business. So I have now, I now also have three other CFOs working with me that help to
Wow.
do the client work. And I mean, most of them I've known for a long time, so I know they're great at what they do. And they have different skill sets to me and different backgrounds. So we've all worked in different industries, and some have been more in small business, some in bigger business, and different types of skill sets. So that way I can really match the client's needs with the CFO. And yeah, so we're now kind of a team of what, five, six people,
Wow.
and able to have those fractional roles in the business. So I have that expertise, but yeah, not have to hire a whole full team. And this allows me to sort of flex their support as my business grows. So yeah, we're in a completely different place to last time we spoke.
How does that feel? Like, oftentimes people are in kind of solo land for a number of years, kind of while they find their feet. But you have scaled really quickly. What did it feel like? You said you had to make some decisions. What was that process like? How did I kind of feel like you're strategic, so I almost think that you would have approached it in the same way you would approach looking at people's financial strategy. But what
Yeah.
was it like for you actually going, hang on a second, I've got to really think about the future of this business?
Yeah. I mean, I do. I am someone who thinks 10 steps ahead always. And that's what I have to do for my clients. So I am a big planner. Sometimes that really works for me. Sometimes if there's no plan, I'm getting really stressed. And my husband probably thinks it's really annoying at times. But it works in business. So yes, I was kind of thinking at all times where I wanted to take the business and how I wanted to grow it. And it is hard, but you've got to find that tipping point between you don't want to hire too early where you don't have enough work
Mm,
for that person to do and you can't quite afford it, but you don't want to hire too late where things are just chaos and
yeah.
you're having to, work out problems and fight fires rather than actually think proactively about what you're doing. So yeah, it was thinking ahead and hiring at those right times before it kind of really ramped up. And I think the business manager role was a bit key in that because she's helped me to sort of think more longer term as well. So we're setting up processes that will help to scale the business.
It is really interesting. Again, even the conversation we were having about bringing in a fractional CFO, doing it kind of before you need a full CFO because you want to take advantage of the strategy. I guess
Yeah,
that's, the interesting thing about this phase of business you're in now is it is all about kind of ratcheting up, doing it just before you're ready, but for seeing the future and,
yeah.
getting that balance right can often be the key to scaling.
You're right. I mean, 9 times out of 10, our clients are coming to us when they've actually passed that point, and it is more of a, I'm drowning and
Help
I
me,
need help.
everything's on fire.
Yes, which is fine. We will
Yeah.
sort through that. In an ideal scenario, you are thinking ahead and you're hiring before that happens. But I get it, right? Like we're all busy as business owners. You're trying to concentrate on 100 different priorities at once. And so sometimes it's just until a problem really occurs, you're not thinking about it.
Mm,
So that's fine. That happens. We come in, we sort out the problems, we, get things back on track, and then we start to build from there. So you absolutely can do that. We can help you sort it out. Because I'll sometimes get the question of, when's the right time to hire and should I fix all the problems before I hire? But sometimes it's like I think about if I had a problem with my car, I wouldn't try to fix it and then take it to a mechanic because I have
yeah.
no idea what I'm doing. So it's better to get the expert to just come in, look at the problem. We will sort it
Yeah.
out really quickly and then get back on track to build.
I always think too, like, I think you think your problems are the worst in the world, but I'm sure people come to you and yet they're like, oh my God, I've got this like issue and they feel so terrible. And you're like, I've seen worse than that.
Yeah,
Like we can fix that and move
yeah.
forward.
Yeah, definitely. And like they're common problems across all
Mm,
businesses. And no matter what stage, it's just a different scale. So
yes.
sometimes businesses feel like, oh, I've been in business 10 years and, we're a multi-million-dollar business. I feel silly coming about this problem. But there's businesses that are tens of million dollars still having the problem. And it just happens at different stages. And as each
Mm,
time you grow, it creates challenges again. So yeah, there's nothing we really haven't seen. There's no problem we've been absolutely shocked about.
yeah.
And even a lot of the time, they're problems I've started to see in my own business. So, it's from experience that you learn and work out what to do. So yeah, there's nothing in your numbers that will shock me.
That is so good. So obviously now you are working with a number of other businesses, working with lots of women in business. Are you
Yeah.
seeing any common themes crop up that you want to comment on?
Yeah, so I work in my business. We're not gender specific, so we do work across male clients, female clients, and business owners of all backgrounds. Without overgeneralizing, I do find that men
Mm,
are better at making a quicker decision. So they will say,
mm,
okay, problem, I need the help. Yep, come in and fix it. Whereas women, we feel like we've got to wear all the hats and we've got to fix it
mm,
ourselves, and we're not willing to ask for help a lot of the time. So that is often the case that they're delaying the asking for help because they feel like they should be able to do it all. We have
yeah.
all have that mindset. The other thing I really see is that as the owner of the business, a lot of women aren't really stepping into that role of the CEO. So
Mm,
it's not just about leading the business, but also paying yourself as the CEO and being the one that's setting the direction for the business and thinking more strategically. And they're still doing a lot of the doing. But if you want to grow the business, you've got to step out of being the doer and you've got to be the leader of your business. You've got to play the role of a CEO. Now, even the ones that are doing that, I'm seeing that they're either paying themselves a very minimal wage, often lower than what they're paying their team members, or they're not paying themselves anything at all. And they're going for months, years without being paid. And that for me is really concerning because you put all this time and effort into the business. You're taking the full accountability as the owner of the business, but your role's not being valued by the business if you're not being paid.
Why do you think that is? Because it's a really, I think, important conversation to have because I see it a lot as well. And I even have seen it from the perspective of, so a decade ago when I started my first business, Scrunch, which was a tech
Mm,
startup, that was a little different than what I do now. But that business was, we raised capital from investors. So there
yes.
was almost an expectation that you were on a very minimal salary, or no salary because it was all this, hustle culture, sweat
Yeah.
equity, like drive the business, blah, blah, blah. Now I run a business that is 100% mine. I'll never talk to an investor again. Famous last words, of course.
Yep.
But now in the circles that I'm running, it is much more less startup land and more small business land. And it's the same thing. It is,
Mm.
and obviously with Spark, I talk to a lot of women in business. But I see that all the time as well. But except for my amazing finance ladies who are like, no, if your business doesn't make enough money to pay you, then what are you even doing? That's not even
Yeah.
a business. Why do you think women do this? What are we doing? What are we doing wrong here?
I mean, you're right. There's a common misconception that it's just normal to not pay yourself for several years when you're a
Mm,
startup. And you're right too, that there are some investors that even expect that the owner just puts in all the sweat equity and, doesn't pay themselves for several years. But an investor that truly understands financials knows that that is a cost of the business.
mm,
If you were not running it as the owner and you left and sold it to someone else, you would have to replace yourself as the CEO. So if you can't afford to pay that role, it doesn't matter whether it's you as the owner or someone else, then your
yeah.
business has a structural problem. And I
Yes.
think that's the thing, without, I'm not shaming anyone here because
Mm,
it can be hard in those early days to generate enough cash and profit to be able to pay yourself. But what it's signaling to you, if your business can't pay you a proper wage, is that there is a structural problem in your business that you need to address. And I think as women, again, we just feel like we have to do these things out of love and passion. And often money isn't the number one driver. A lot of women are starting their own business because there's purpose and passion behind what they do, which is
yes.
amazing. I mean, that's great. You want more money in the hands of those people. But to be able to grow your impact in whatever you're
Mm,
trying to drive, you need to have money. Money does help you invest in your business, in reach a greater number of customers and clients and create a bigger impact. So I think that's really important, but it's often not the frame of mind that many women have. And so they either feel a bit ashamed and so they don't know how to get advice to fix it,
yeah.
or they're feeling like that's, if it's something they're passionate about, then, they shouldn't really charge that much for it, or they should be giving it sort of more as a gift to the world. And you can have a balance, right? Because there are things where I do some pro bono work or subsidized work here and there, but not at the cost of my business profit or my own salary. So you can
Yeah.
structure the business in a way that you can still give back where it makes sense, but I value my role as the CEO of the business.
Yeah, and so I love that you're talking about, so if this isn't happening, it's potentially a structural problem in the business. So, which tells me there's a solution, and us as women, we can start paying ourselves.
Yes.
So, if I'm listening to this podcast right now and I'm like, oh crap, that's me, I haven't paid myself in years and I'm getting a little over it,
Yep.
how do you start to think about taking a wage as a business owner?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people don't understand what is the level of revenue that they need to be generating to allow that to
Mm,
happen. So when businesses are setting goals for the year, they'll often set a top line revenue number. I want to make, 10K a month or 20K a month or whatever it might be, $1 million a month, whatever you're aiming for.
yes, please.
Um,
I'll take that one.
And so we set that, we go for it, but we sort of don't think about what that means in flowing through to everything else in the business. And
Mm,
even, you see all these business owners online saying, oh, I'm a $1 million business owner, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, but how much is actually how much is actually profit and how much of it is going into their own bank account is the question,
yeah.
because not many of them talk about that. So when we work with clients, we do a slightly different approach to goal setting. And we do what we call an owner first goal setting approach. So I know, Danny, you're familiar with profit first, which are,
Yep.
a lot more business owners are becoming savvy with. So you think about putting profit aside before anything else. But we think about it a step further of owner first. So before you start with anything else, what is the salary that you want to be earning as an owner? And if you're not earning much or you're earning nothing at the moment, I'm not suggesting that you start with $1 million salary. We can get there, but just not yet.
Good. I'm glad
Um,
there's a roadmap in your mind.
there's always a roadmap. But, start with
Mm.
something that you think to cover, as a bare minimum, you want to cover your personal costs. So what is that? Maybe that's, 50K a year, something to start with. So that is your starting point. Then you think about what is the profit that you want to make for the business. So that 50K that if you, for this example, if that's what you're paying yourself as a business owner, profit should be on top of that. And that's money that you could reinvest back into the business that will give you a buffer, that you might pay yourself a bonus at the end of the year if you have profits. So you work out what that number is on top of your salary. Then you need to understand all the expenses in your business. So what is the cost of running your business? And if you have other staff, if you rent an office, all those sneaky subscriptions that add up, what is the kind of average cost of running your business? And then if you add those three things together, your salary, your profit that you want to target, and the cost of running your business, that's what you need to target as your revenue. And that way, if you're hitting that revenue number, then you are going to be able to pay all of those things. And so then each year you can slowly increase what that salary number is. But I think that way, you've got a revenue number that will support your business structure. And you might go through all of that and think, oh my God, that revenue number is huge. But it's better to know that, right? Because then you can think about a strategy to get there and what sales you're targeting. If it's just a revenue number you've pulled out of the air, you can hit that number every year and you'll still keep, not producing profit and not paying yourself.
Yeah.
So that's how we sort of think about it, is really putting the owner first to make sure that you're getting a salary and it's seen as an investment in the business. It's a standard cost in the business, just like everything else.
Yeah, and I really like that you talk this way because you're right. Like the rhetoric online is very much headlines, so that yeah, the 10K, 20K, 30K months. I feel like
Yeah.
the flavor of the month changes every now and
Yes.
again. And but yeah, but the other thing is when I just talk to women in business, it is I feel like my revenue is good, but I never have any money. You know,
Yeah.
so it is that they haven't actually started in reverse and thought about what they need. I think that a lot of times, yeah, we see these big headlines and go, if I just get that, I'll be fine. And then
Mm.
it's like you get to the end of the month or the end of the quarter or the end of the year, and you're like, where did all the money go? But in
Yeah.
actual fact, you haven't thought about what it is you need to sustain you, the business, the profit, the lifestyle that you want.
Exactly. And I think the other thing I often say to owners is that not all growth is good growth. So people
Mm.
sometimes think that just bringing in more revenue is going to solve all of your problems. But if you haven't thought about the cost of getting that revenue, it may be more revenue coming in, it might be more work, and you're actually not making a dollar more when it comes to profit. So all of that effort is down to nothing. And this isn't just, small businesses. I've seen this with multi-million dollar businesses that might be turning over $5 million of revenue. Looks great
Mm.
at the top line when they talk about that. And their profit is still next to nothing because all of it is being spent on cost or inefficiencies in the business. So yeah, and there might be a business owner who's earning $300,000 a year and they're taking home half of that in profit. So which situation would you rather be in? All that work to build $5 million for nothing, or 300,000 and you still get 150 in your back pocket. So it's not always about just revenue growth. It's thinking about what actually creates profit and allows you to pay yourself as the CEO of your business.
Yeah, and I think as well that, what is your definition of success?
Yeah.
I think again, when we look at social media and headlines, it is very easy to be swept up in someone else's definition of success and feel less than if you don't have the $5 million,
Yep.
revenue line. But that understanding of what is enough for you and what success looks like, and then reverse engineering the business to meet that, it's just so much more fulfilling at the end of the day. And I love your comment as well, actually, about not all revenue being created equal, because again, to your point, as well, if you're just take on more clients and more clients and more clients, a lot of women get to the stage where they're like, I don't even want to do this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I actually don't get paid and I don't
Yeah.
like it and I have no
Yeah.
time.
Yes. And the
Mm,
clients that are just draining or, not responsive and are hard to deal with, I mean, that's not worth it. So you're right. It's working out what your level of success is. And that's why I'm saying if you kind of start with what you need, because everyone's needs are different as to how much money they need for their lifestyle and what they want to make.
yeah.
But you sort of start with that. What do you need? And, we're talking about the financial side here, but even when we're working with business owners, we're talking to them about, what's the type of lifestyle they want. They want to run the business, but
Yeah.
maybe they want to take 6 holidays this year. So we've got to build that in to make it work. Have you got the right structure to support that?
Mm,
Maybe they want to sell it in a few years and retire. So that's a different approach to it as well. So there's sort of, it's more than just thinking about the, getting to 5, 10, 20 million. It's what is going to work for you. And then how do you
mm.
create a business structure that supports that particular goal? Because, yeah, I don't, a lot of people will tell you the millions that they're making online, but I question a lot of it as to how much is actually supporting them from a finance perspective, but also from a lifestyle perspective. Because, yeah, you can become Alex Hormozy, who sits in a dark room and works all night and all day and thinks that he's being successful. Not my cup of tea, good for him, but not my thing.
No, I know. I'm like, when you're talking about the 6 holidays a year, now we're getting now
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
getting to my
yeah,
version of success.
exactly, exactly.
Oh, and so then if you're, obviously you're starting from that position in terms of, okay, this is what we need to cover costs, or this is the salary that I want, this is the profit, this is the expenses. Is there merit if you're just starting out? Is there merit in perhaps an allocation of salary that isn't actually a salary, but it's just a small amount? Is there
Yeah,
any merit in getting into the behavior before we might be ready for a full salary?
100%. I think so. As soon as I made my first $1,000, I paid myself a tiny, tiny, tiny amount, but paid myself something because I
Yeah.
think part of it is the mindset as well, right? Because
Mm.
when you're doing that, you just get into the habit, but you're also valuing yourself. Whereas if I wait to say, no, I need to become $1 million business before I pay myself, it may take me years to get there. I may never get there, and I end up not paying myself, and I'm not really valuing the role that I'm playing in the business to get there. So yes, I think from day one, even if you pay yourself $10 to start with, put something aside. And then as it grows, you're already in that habit of putting something
Mm.
aside and you can increase it over time. So yeah, absolutely. I'd say it doesn't matter what it is to start with. Just start putting something aside for yourself. So you're in that mindset that your role matters and you are worth being paid because we are, we're not in business to just do it for fun and never pay ourselves for years and years and years. You want to create something that's meaningful that works around your lifestyle and can
Yeah.
create bigger impact for whatever purpose that you're trying to achieve. So you need to value yourself that way. So yes, start no matter how small.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think if anyone's listening and they haven't been paying themselves or they've been feeling guilty and especially for those impact driven businesses that we were talking about, it almost seems like a nice way, yeah, just to start to shift
Yeah.
the mindset, like just start really small and just get used to the feeling of paying yourself and valuing what you do.
Yeah, just start. And, even if it's to pay your monthly Netflix subscription to start with, or, like think of something.
Yeah.
What's an amount that you can just pay yourself and you know that that cost is now covered?
Yes.
That's how I would go about it. And then each month, think about, is there capacity to increase that slightly? But yeah, start somewhere. it's like anything. You have to start small. It seems like a huge jump to suddenly start paying a full salary if you haven't for some time, but start
Mm.
somewhere and you'll see it will quickly increase.
Oh, I love it so much. What else have you seen over the last 12 months of business, of scaling quickly, of working with clients? Is there anything else that stands out to you?
Yeah, it's interesting, when you're in that startup phase, so much of it is just sort of trial and error and building up your network. And I came from a corporate background, right? So when I started
Mm.
out, all of my network were corporate people. And I was like, who am I going to connect with that's in the business world? Because, yeah, I mean, they're great people to be connected to. And I have actually got clients through some of them because their, brothers, sisters, wives have all had businesses. So don't discount them; they can be
Yeah.
useful. But I really needed to extend out my business network, and
Mm.
so that's where joining Spark and other business networks have been really useful to just meet with
Mm.
other business owners. And some of those hires that I was mentioning earlier, I had mentioned to you, Danny, I actually met them through Spark. So
Yes,
yeah,
the
it's
system works.
yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. So I think that was really important for me is building up the network. Whereas now I feel like I have a relatively strong network. And if there's
Mm.
some sort of skill set I'm looking for or, looking to get advice from certain business owners, I could reach out and ask several people, or I know someone who knows someone. So that's been really important, the building of the network over time. Um, as I've started to build my business and work with more and more business owners, I've seen that there's just so much commonality between what challenges they're going through. And
Mm.
every time that you get to a new stage in business, there's new challenges. And the key problem I see that people face is they might find something that's worked, that's got them to, the first $1 million of revenue. And they keep doing that, thinking that will get them to 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, and they're stuck. They stagnate at this one stage. But the
Yes.
thing is that whatever got you there won't get you to the next stage. And that's where we kind of come in and help because you have to reset, you have to, do things differently. And it seems counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, all of that I've been doing has got me to this level of success. So why don't I just keep doing that and I'll keep getting
Mm.
success? But it's actually not. You've really got to change your thinking. And I think even for myself, moving from being a solo startup to now having a team of people, I completely had to change my way of thinking, how I structure my business, and my mindset as a whole. Because again, what got me to that sort of first couple of clients isn't going to help me scale the business ongoing. So no
Yep.
matter where you're at in business, if it feels like I keep doing the same thing and I'm just stagnating, it's not you. It's just that you do need a different approach to get to that next level of growth.
Yeah, and I think that it's important because there becomes a max time you can put into things, right? Like I think often
Yeah,
in the early days, it's just I'll just work my ass off and I'll figure it out. And and you do that for so long, and yes, things are working, but there comes a point where it's like you cannot physically work any more hours. You
yeah,
cannot work any harder. You cannot do more, take on another client. So you do actually have to take a step back and reset and reassess. And I think that's really hard for business owners because we do push ourselves to that breaking point of, oh my God, I can't physically do
yeah.
anymore. And that's a big thing that we're talking about in Spark this year in terms of actually taking a step back. And that's where we've kind of introduced this new cadence of a 90-day business audit, monthly CEO time to get realigned, and then a weekly reset. But that's also why I love tapping into someone like you because there's power in actually having someone objective come in and ask you the hard questions because often we're just so stuck in our own heads, we actually can't see the way out other than just
Yeah.
doing more.
Yeah, it's so true. And you do need that person to come in and be objective about it. And that, I mean, over
Mm.
the last probably 2 years, I've worked with a number of business coaches as well and tapped into, their different skill sets and different people depending on sort of where I was at. But exactly for that reason, because
Mm.
I'm so in the weeds of it, as we all are, that I just can't see what's not working or where I need to look up and, where I need to do things differently. So working with a coach that could come in and kind of say, hey, have you thought about this? Or do
Mm.
you really think that is still serving you? Or where else could we be doing something different? It's just helped me challenge my thinking. And that's how I've been able to grow quickly as well, because they're coming in and seeing it kind of bigger picture, whereas you're really in the weeds of it. It is hard to step out. But I think even putting in aside that time to reassess your goals, how
Mm.
you're tracking, those sessions with Spark are really useful. I find the CEO ones really useful, just to put that time aside and reflect on it, because we often don't. We're just, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? Not
Yeah.
reflecting on where we've got to, what's worked, what hasn't. And, again, as women, we're probably better at saying all the things that went wrong and all the failures that we've had, and
Yep.
not really thinking about, we actually have come a long way, and there's lots of wins, and there's things that we've done really well. But yeah, we're not good at celebrating those.
No, well, definitely not sometimes. But yeah, and it is, I also love sometimes, we talked about, getting to the end of the month and having no money left because we haven't quite, reverse engineered where we're going, all of the things. But sometimes as well, if we avoid looking at the numbers, if we avoid those check-ins, that's kind of where it gets out of control. And I know sometimes it's a bit scary for people, especially if they haven't done it in a while, or if they've never done it before. But it is that actually, confronting the numbers or confronting the strategy, or just, taking that step back and actually having a look at what's going on. That's where the success comes. That's where the scale comes, because you
Yeah.
unlock those little nuggets of what's working and what's not working. And it just helps you actually feel a little bit calmer and clearer about what next step to take.
For sure. And that's back to being that CEO in your business, right? Like when you
Mm.
think of the CEOs of the big multi-billion dollar businesses, they are looking at this stuff all the time. They're not in the weeds looking at every single detail, but they're working out what matters, and they're checking out those key metrics, performance, where it's heading, what decisions they need to make, like constantly. That's the
Yeah.
role that you need to play in the business. But I think, you're right that it can be something people avoid, especially if you haven't looked at it in a long time, or ever in some
Mm.
cases. But that's okay. Like, it's never too late to start.
Yes.
As soon as you start, you'll start seeing momentum. So it doesn't matter if you haven't looked at it in a very long time. It's never too late to start. Um, Side story that's kind of related to that, because I, over Christmas, decided I wanted to learn the piano, and I bought myself a
Oh,
keyboard. And then
cool.
before I ordered it, I was like Googling, is it too late to start piano over 40? It's not, apparently. I can do it. So if I can do
The
that,
internet said it's fine.
yeah, ChatGPT said it's fine. So if I can do that, you can start looking at your numbers.
Oh my God, that has just made my day. It is so hilarious. I think about that, and it always blows my mind at how young people will ask that question. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
it too late for me to do X, Y, Z? And I'm like, for God's sake, you're 30, or you're
Yeah.
25. Like, you've got to think about the years left to live
Yeah,
that you have to be happy in, people.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah, well,
good.
it's even starting a business, right? Like so many people think like,
Mm,
oh, maybe it's too late. But I've met women in their 50s, 60s, starting something new. And
yeah.
sometimes it's having a bit of wisdom and knowledge and life experience is actually very useful. So I'm
Yes.
not sure it will serve me with learning the piano, but in business, yes.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Oh my God, I could talk to you all day. But we should wrap up this podcast in my usual manner.
Yeah.
So, reflecting on your time in business, would there be any piece of advice that you would give to another woman on her business journey?
My advice would be just really step into that CEO role early. Like you are doing something amazing, you are building something, and you deserve to be valued as the CEO of your business. Yeah, that would be my advice. Step into it early and don't shy away from it, no matter how small your business is. You are doing amazing things, so own it.
Oh, yes, that was so good. That wraps another episode of Spark TV. Shout out to Spark TV sponsor IP Australia for their amazing support of the Spark podcast and women in business. And if no one tells you today, you've got this.